Mr. Bojangles, ladies and gentlemen, the Coffee House comic wants to introduce Mr. Bojangles.
Okay. The Coffee House comic. Thank you. All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the small coffee house here. This is somewhat like 1960s, maybe, somewhere in some downtown. This is protest years, and you got the new guy trying out to be a coffee house comic.
Oh,
He can play some guitar, and he can tell some jokes, but he can't do either one really well. So he tries to do them both. So here we are, Coffee House comic. A guy walks into a bar with a monkey, and he says to the bartender, "I'll have a beer and a beer for my monkey." Bartender does that. A little while later, the guy's back again. He says, "Another beer for me and my monkey." Well, this goes on through most of the night, till finally, the monkey passes out on the floor. So the guy gets up and he starts heading out the door. The bartender shouts at him. He says, "Hey, you're not going to leave that lion on the floor, are you?" And the guy looks back and says, "That's not a lion, it's a monkey." There you go. That's why he tells jokes. Three rednecks from South Carolina wind up going to Mexico for some partying, and they have one heck of a night. They wound up getting arrested, thrown in jail, and they were found out they were going to be executed for their crimes. They still had no idea what their crimes were. So the first one is strapped in the chair, and he's asked if he has any last words. And he says, "I'm from the Carolina School of Divinity, and I believe in the power of the Holy Ghost and Jesus Christ to right any wrongs and save me." They threw the switch. Nothing happened. So they thought, maybe this God thing works, so they let him go. So the second guy, he's strapped in the same chair. Any last words? He said, "I'm from the Clemson School of Law, and I believe in the rule of justice, and that justice will prevail in all situations." They throw the switch. Nothing happened. So they thought, okay, power of the law, they let him go. The third one was strapped in, and the same thing, and he said, "I'm a University of South Carolina electrical engineer, and I can tell you, you're not going to electrocute anybody if you don't connect those two wires." The reason that the Air Force, Army, Navy, and Marines bicker among themselves is because of the differences in their languages. For instance, take the simple phrase, "secure the building." The Army, they'll post guards all around the place. The Navy, they'll turn out the lights and lock the doors. The Marines, they kill everybody inside and set up a headquarters. The Air Force, they take on a 5-year lease with the option to buy. My neighbor asked me if he could borrow my lawnmower. I said, sure, as long as you keep it in my yard. Long hair. I don't know how you do that. I was summoned to meet my lawyer in his office the other day. He said, "Do you want the bad news or the terrible news?" Well, I said, "Give me the bad news first." He said, "Well, your wife found a picture she says is worth $10,000. I said, wow, that's the bad news? What's the terrible news? He said, the terrible news is the pictures of you and your secretary. See, a barber gave a haircut to a priest one day, and the priest got up to pay, and the barber said, you know, you do God's work. This haircut was free. So, the next morning, the barber found a dozen Bibles outside the front of his store. A policeman came in later and did the same thing. The barber said, no, you can't pay. You serve the law and you keep justice on the streets. You don't pay for this haircut. The next day, there was a dozen donuts in the front of that barber shop. Well, the next thing was a lawyer came to the barber for a haircut, and again the barber refused any payment, saying, you serve the justice system. And the next morning, the barber found 12 more lawyers outside. A weird dream that I went to heaven. As I stood there at the pearly gates talking to St. Peter, I noticed on the wall, a wall full of clocks. And I asked him about it. He said, those are lie clocks. Everyone on earth has a lie clock. I said, oh, whose clock is that? And he says, that's Ronald Reagan's clock. It's only moved 4 times. That means he only told 4 lies. I says, well, whose clock is that? He says, that's George Bush's clock. It's moved 8 times. That means he's told 8 lies. And then I look around, I says, well, where's Obama's clock? And he says, oh, that's in Jesus' office. He's using it for a ceiling fan. Thank you very much. All right.
You're still collecting? Okay, let's figure out what we're doing here.